Welcome back to the Plan Your Federal Retirement Podcast. I'm your coach, Micah Shalansky. And today we wanted to talk about, we talk about so much logistics in getting ready to retire. Sometimes we forget to talk about that exciting next chapter of your life of what to do in retirement. So we brought a special guest with us that has a lot of experience on both sides of this equation, none other than my father, Floyd Shalansky. Papa San, what's going on?
Good morning, son. How you doing? We're doing great. Great topic, great subject. And, with this major transition of people, my age group anyway, the boomers and all making this transition into retirement, great topic right now. Getting people ready, get them the mindset, get them to think about what is next, the next chapter of your life, if you will.
Yeah, so much uncertainty, going on. And that is a consistent thing. There's always a lot of uncertainty kind of taking place. But one of the things that I think is really important is even though everything is out there, there's that uncertainty. We need to be able to draw things back to what can we control? What things can we do? And how do we help best, plan for the future and how to put all those things together? So again, we have a lot of podcasts talking about preparing for retirement. But Pops, I'd love to chat and kind of pick on some of your knowledge that you have about after people have retired. What are some pitfalls? What are some traps they fall into? And, the financial stuff is a different pod we could talk about. But what's some of the emotional stuff? What's some of the planning stuff, et cetera? Because going from working 40, 50, hours a week to all of a sudden being retired can be a hard switch for some people to flip.
100%. You and I have done seminars together so long. As you mentioned that, I think of that story that we had up in Eagle River. Oil guy, standing about 6'8", married to this short, petite little blonde, came to the seminar wearing stilettos. And when Mike and I do a program, we always ask, when are you going to retire? And the guy raises his hands. And I said, great. And he gave me the date. He says, what are you going to do the day after? He says, Floyd, not a problem. I'm going to be standing on the old course. Now, if you're not a golfer, you won't know what that is, but that's in Scotland. I'm going to be teeing up about the time and launching as all my compatriots are going to work. And his wife rocked back in that chair, crossed her arms and says, the hell you are. We're not going to blah, 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 blah. And Micah had to get up and say, hey, guys, why don't you walk outside and finish this conversation? Well, the day he did retire, we did get a postcard from him, and he was teeing off. And it was on a cruise ship, someplace where it was a lot warmer than Scotland. Point being, if you're ready to retire, have you talked to your spouse? When's the last time
Such a good one.
You were together 24/7, round the clock, all the time? When you go to work and we raise a family and our lives cross, those of you that are hockey moms or soccer dads or hockey dad, how do you balance the schedule? Who's going here? Who's going to do what? And hopefully on the weekend, you're able to get together. But all of a sudden, that's gone. All of a sudden, you may be an empty nester and it's 24/7. Is your spouse ready to retire? And then, depending on your job, you go from there he goes to who was that? So relevance, if you will, getting ready, getting your head psyched. And the other thing, son, as you well know, the first year, I don't worry a lot about it, honestly, because there's honeydews and there's travels and we're relocating, all these things. But after that first year, things may start to slow down. And then what do you do?
Pulling on the thread, Pops, about, when's the last time you spent 24/7 with your wife? And it's more than just, we went on this vacation last year. Vacation doesn't count, right? Everyone is in a different mode for vacation. This is day-to-day living. What is that going to be like? What things are you going to be doing? Again, that first year, you're also setting some habits in there, right? So we generally don't have too many cognitive mental issues, et cetera. So there could be some, right, when the relevance side of it, right? It says, I used to be, an executive at work and now I come home and I'm the dishwasher, right? It is not the
Janitor,
same role.
dishwasher, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes there can be a little bit of that. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not trying to pick on either side of this. This is something you might have to deal with. What's your plan to deal with it? Because the worst thing you want to do is retire and have this hit you in the head with a 2x4. So I like to see the agendas, the plans, the bucket list of items that clients are going to do. So even that first year, right, you could be super excited. There's a lot of things. Well, once that first year comes to an end, what habits did we put in place? Now, a little bit on the financial side is bad habits that can be put in place. Is saying, my God, this is, the only opportunity I'm going to have to do this. It's a once in a lifetime. Anytime I hear that, I'm like, all right, the client is just justifying spending a lot of money. That's all this is, right? Now, maybe true, maybe not, but we're going to be spending a lot of money. What I worry about is how many of those once in a lifetime events come up all of the time and now blow our retirement budget. So we got to be looking, and this is the reason Pops and I are on the same page. We love to start this several years in advance. What does retirement look like? What are the things you're going to want to do? Let's start living on those retirement dollars today so we know what it's going to be like.
Micah, as we talked pre that, we don't want to get into the financial side, but 3 to 5 years out, and how do you get ready for that? I agree 200%. But the other side of it is the old day timer, if you will. I know you're digital. We had a conversation about my Rolodex, and Micah puts up his Rolex, and different mindsets, different groups. But the thing to think about is here's what I tell my clients. Write it down. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write it, see it. All right. And plot out the next 3, 4, 5 years. I'm a huge believer in a 5-year plan. And every year that you finish one, you add one, whether it's travel, whether it's doing the house, whatever you're going to do. All right. And then let's budget into it. Let's set aside a travel budget. Let's set aside these things. All right. And it's not just one-sided. It has to be both. All right. It has to be the husband and the wife. All right. And then you need to put kids in there, because there's birthdays, there's anniversaries, there's holidays,
grandkids,
great grandkids that change your life.
I was like, that's a nice thought that you put kids in there, but the kids are irrelevant. Come on. It's all about the grandkids for you guys. We know better.
You have too. So that's a true statement. All right. And it's family, right? We've had clients that their families, in Alaska, and they relocate to Phoenix or Galveston or San Antonio or someplace, and they anticipate the kids to keep coming. And then what happens after maybe the first year? What happens when some of the newness wears off? Or the kids get high school or go to college, and then they start to deviate. And all of a sudden, grandparents find themselves perhaps lonely, missing those kids. These are, and again, the family issue plays huge in this. And Mike and I aren't psychologists or clergy people by all means, but I will tell you, there are those days I'm wearing the cross or the collar, or I need my white jacket on, because it is psychological. It's not just money. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to live? All these things, after working 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to change. When you were talking about, you went from hoo-hoo to whatever, we have a mutual friend in DC, and he went to a very high level job, and he had security people pick him up at the house. And the first morning, if you know who I'm talking about, the first morning he walks out of the house feeling really good, and he walks down to the staff car, and they open it up, and his wife opens the door and says, "Honey, don't forget to take the trash out." Put things kind of in perspective, if you will. And those are mental things we've just got to go through. So that 3 to 5 years, let's start talking about it. You're going to relocate. Phenomenal. Where are you going to go? I don't know. Well, 3 to 5 years out, let's take a holiday and go look. Let's go find this area. And when you find a place that you think, this is my retirement heaven, rent a place for a year.
Rent.
And make sure
such good advice.
Fits. You got 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Break it up over the next year or two. Go drop in, stay there, go to church, find out the Elks, the Moose, the Lodge, the Rotarians, whatever you want to do. How do you fit into it? And why is that so important? Because people retire sometimes in cliques, whether it's political, whether it's religious. Can you enter that? Can you break into that to become part of it? And that's all that relevance again.
Pops, you bring up such a good thing right there, right? About looking forward, right? And where do I want to be? And I want to pull on that thread a little bit more. And we talked about it before in the pod. You rent when you move to a place, right? Because vacation, everything will be great. Little things don't bother you because you're there for 2 weeks and you're in vacation mode. And in 2 weeks, you're going home. Versus when you live there, it's a different story. So moving and renting is a great thing to do, to really get a sample to see, is this where I want to be? Is this not where I want to be? Other thing that's inside of there is it's going to give us this aspect of, trying before we buy, especially if we want to move international. There's a lot of things that go into that. Then also thinking about, if we're going to move, you need to move before we have to move. So that sometimes we get caught up with that. People are like, hey, I don't need to move just yet. I'm going to wait until I'm older. When is older? The older is not a date, by the way. Older is just sometime in the future when I think I'm older, right? That's what that is. It's a moving target. When I'm older, I'm going to move. Okay, great. Well, when is that? So we want to stay in Alaska as long as we can. Awesome. I love the state as well. But maybe your family's in the lower 48. And says, okay, great. When you decide to move down there, if you wait till your 80s and you have mobility issues, this is a much different life. How are you going to connect? Who's going to be your circle of friends? How are you going to get engaged in the community when you're starting to have mobility issues? It's going to be a lot harder. So we're a big fan of saying, hey, if you need to make that move, make it before you have to make it. Make it when you want to make it.
Mike, I got a new acronym for you. OMY. Oh my. That means one more year and then I'll make that decision.
That's right. It's always one more year. It's not this year. It's one more year. And, we're going to do A, B, and C. We're going to get this done. We're going to move on. And I get it. These are big decisions and I don't want to make light of it, but the time is going to come. So if we're thinking about it, we might need to accelerate that a little bit more. And Pops, I love your thought about, that travel plan about saying, hey, maybe we just go rent a place for a good while in that location, see how we can build a community. Whether you are close to retirement or planning for it years out, one of the top questions that I get is, Micah, how do I fill out my retirement forms and not make any mistakes? This can feel a bit complex and overwhelming, and I understand that. You're making some pretty serious decisions that'll affect you for the rest of your retirement. Our How to Fill Out Retirement Forms series is your ultimate companion to navigating these forms. You are going to learn how to avoid common mistakes. You're going to learn how to fill these forms out correctly and even save money in the process. We will walk you through the most important steps so you can safeguard your financial future. Sign up today for this video series at planyourfederalretirement.com/retirement forms. That's planyourfederalretirement.com/retirement forms. Don't let the paperwork stand in the way of your retirement. Let us guide you through it step by step. Until then, happy planning.
Agree 100%. And here's what we know, after doing this for 45, 50 years, it's just crazy time. But I know this, when my retirees leave or retire, they're going to go build their dream home. And they're looking for it, they can't find it, then they're going to construct it. Fine. And when I tell them, when you retire, this is your first of the next 4 moves.
No way. That can't be the case.
Yeah, right. Well, you're going to build it too big. You're going to build it with all the stuff that you didn't have while the kids are growing up. And 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you're going to go, why am I bouncing around this 5,000, 6,000 square foot home? We need to downsize. So there'll be that move. All right. So it's from resort living, whether it's on the beach or golf course, and then it's a downsize. All right. So that's move number 2. All right. Move number 3 is, gee, we're getting older, 80, 85. Where are the kids at? Well, it's a good long day's drive. It's a 2-day drive. So what do? You move closer to that one child or that family that you think is going to be around to help you mow the lawn, clean the house, and so on. And what's the 4th move? Either in the basement with the kid or to a nursing home. And no one wants to hear that. I've lived it with my mom and dad. And Micah, you saw your grandparents go through it. And this is personal. And, we've helped hundreds and hundreds of people retire. Today we have a friend on the East Coast, and one of the least expensive places for long-term care it's in Georgia anyway. And people are moving parents there because the cost of long-term care is so expensive, especially on the West Coast, especially in Alaska.
Our upper East Coast is really expensive.
Oh, yeah. So they find this place that's, quote, affordable. All these things. So, you don't want to hear this, but Mike and I tell our clients all the time, instead of buying long-term care insurance, is that we take 1 or 2 year premiums and make the house your retirement home to age in place.
Pops, I think that's a must right there. Is, what is it going to cost a nursing home? $10,000-$12,000 a month. Okay, then $24,000. Bring someone in who specializes in aging at home and have them go through your house. Not you, because you're going to think you did everything and really didn't do it, right? But bring someone else in and actually spend the money. Because what's one of the leading causes for entering a nursing home is accidents. Okay, where do most accidents happen? At the home. Okay, great. How do we just reduce that level of risk? Because with risk, you have all these different things. You can avoid it, you can transfer it, you can retain it, or you could reduce it. Okay, well, if I'm getting older, right, and I know I'm going to have certain things, how do I help reduce my risk? Well, one-on-one is strength training. One of the things that comes out again and again, oh yeah, you're looking at me, Pops, I'm talking to you, we're doing this. Strength training is a really important thing, especially as we get older. And that reduces our risk of having to go into a nursing home, or at least delays that potential. So there's little things that we can do in our life as we're aging that makes such a significant impact in the quality of life that we're going to have.
There's 2 phases of that. Get the camera right. 2 phases of that, right? There's cognitive and there's physical. we all know the physical, and we think the cognitive just kind of unfolds, if you will. But study after study after study today is talking about excess sugar, all right? And the diabetes side is being a precursor to dementia or Alzheimer's, all right? So with all these studies, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but you know what? I think I'm going to reduce, well, we already started reducing our sugar content because even if it's not right, it's good for us.
Whoa. When I was raising my kids and they were young, you gave me so much crap about reducing their sugar intake, like again and again and again and again. I feel I'm just needing to air some grievances on this podcast right here. But now you're moving to reducing the sugar. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think I said that, did I? Rewind.
No, all right. All jokes aside. But yeah, I think these are really good things, right? And Pops, I love your point. Do we know this is the one thing? No. But the important part is taking action and moving on these things for the quality of life. Money is an important part, and we have so many other pods that talk about this, but this one is really on the quality of life side of it. What are you going to be doing to maintain that quality of life? Mobility is another really big one with seniors, right? What are you doing for stretching, for strength training? Like, how can you make sure, boy, I remember, Pops, we took a class years ago on working with seniors, and it was talking about car accidents. And it was like, I didn't even think about this at the time. And it was like, when do most seniors get into car accidents? Backing up. And the guy was like, why do you think that is? And then he did a physical motion, and a lot of seniors cannot physically turn their head and look behind them. Now, today we have these amazing cameras in cars, which is another discussion. Does your car have that or not? But the mobility side, can you turn your head behind you and see what's behind you when you're driving? If you're not, okay, we're at an increased risk of getting into an accident. So all of these things compound, and it sounds like a lot, but if we start moving on them a little bit at a time, just like the best way to eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And we want you to have a long, healthy retirement. I want you to do the things you want to do. I want you to enjoy the life that you saved so long to go and enjoy. And you got to be able to have some basic physical strength, abilities, etc., to be able to go do that.
You know, it's, I think about the demographics. For years, I was on Dent's board, Harry S. Dent, as you know, was on his board, and all built around demographics. And the demographics we talked about 40 years ago, we're living today. And I just read an article dealing with Social Security. I guess the last of the baby boomers, the trailing edge of the baby boomers, turned 65 or 66 this year. So the Medicare costs and the Social Security stuff starts to ratchet up. I mean, all those things 40 years ago we talked about, but they, yeah, sure, that's down the road. And all of a sudden, Mike, I was talking to a client yesterday. He said, I started part-time with the feds, working for one of the agencies, and now I'm full-time. Never expected to be here. He says, on the 1st of March, I've been here 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, it happens like that. And when we're young,
turn around.
Anyway, so we can go on and on and on about that. And in the pods, Micah says, there's tons of stuff talking about investments and spending and cash flow and all, right? But sometimes advisors don't spend enough time about quality of life. What does that truly mean? All right. You're sitting with I'm sitting with someone that's got, a couple $1 million equity in a house. You say that's a lot of money, but fine, they sell it, take the profit, pay the taxes. They're going to go buy something else. Guess what the price tag is going to be?
Yeah.
A couple $1 million.
Couple million
so
bucks.
It's adjusting that the way that we need to do. Things that we try to look out over. When you're so close to something, we get our blinders on. We see what we want to see. We don't see what peripheral out there is affecting us. And that's the nice part about having a third-party advisor, that loves you, but not that much. So that they can be a little more perspective.
That's not how I would phrase it, but okay. But really open to that bigger perspective. And Pops, one of the reasons I love having you on the podcast, and, we jokingly say, my sister and I, that you can't retire. It's only half joking, all right? Because we love keeping you engaged. But one of the things is you also do just a phenomenal job working with clients. And so your, quote, transition into retirement has been this kind of nice part where, you can take and you can still work and do the things you want to do, see your clients, etc. And you and mom still have a lot of time to travel. And so the reason I bring that up to our listeners is saying, hey, there's more than just one option. The option, isn't, hey, it's either like full retirement or not at all, whether it's moving to a second career, moving to part-time. What is that guy's name? From Strength to Strength, Russell something or other. Russell Brooks wrote From Strength to Strength.
I know the book, right? Yeah.
But basically what he talks about is when you move from one phase of your life to the other, and he talks about the way the brain changes, etc., but also staying engaged. So it's really good things to think about as we're thinking about retiring. So often from the feds, we say, hey, I'm retiring and I'm done. And you know what? If that's your mindset and that's what makes you happy and you got the finances to do it, then rock on, more power to you. But we also work with people that says, Micah, I'm not done. Like I might want to change. I might want a reduction in work, but I'm not done. Well, if mentally you're not done, then don't stop, right? Just because your job may change at the feds, maybe you need to go somewhere else as a second career, but this, you need to go from your strength to your next thing. But having that cognitive awareness of saying, hey, I still have more to give is really important to keep going.
You know, Micah, when you said that, we had this client that moved to Carolina out of, Alaska, and he was an executive both in the feds, and then he took a second job in another executive level position in a Fortune 500 company, and then he retired. They did their traveling, and he did his social thing or community things, and he called about a year ago and says, I'd like to get involved with startup companies. So my first mental set was, okay, here comes someone wanting to invest in something, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's our first
and he
word
says,
about
no, I got so much knowledge, I want to help. So I put him together with someone so that they can do the young, YPO, Young Presidents Organization. So he come in, doesn't get paid, but he can say, look, great idea. Here's how we did it this way. Have you considered X, Y, and Z? And Chip Conley, he wrote that book on, what is it, your second phase or mentoring, and he brings the people together. And that's what he all talks about, is that your next phase of life, you're 66, you're 70. You don't have to quit. Someone out there needs that brain power that you've got locked up in there. And be willing to share it. You don't even have to get paid for it. Be willing to share it. Make the world a little better place. Help someone along the road. And I think that's the biggest calling we could have as retirees.
I love it. Pops, I was having dinner with somebody yesterday, and he's kind of third career, kind of phasing out and whatnot, but still doing it. But one of the things he told me was his mentor told him a long time ago, he says, your job as you kind of get more wisdom and you age and more experience is to always find a younger person, befriend them, learn from them, work with them, etc. They said it's going to be a twofold relationship. Number one, they're going to keep you in tune with the new things that are happening that you're going to miss. But number two, they need your wisdom, because even though things are different, they're the same. And so, we got 40 years of working in this. You have a lot of wisdom that you can share and help prevent a lot of problems that are out there. And I got to say, it's 100% true. And so it's always something to be thinking about. We're moving to this next career. You got a lot of wisdom. You got a lot of experience, right? Who do you want to partner with? Who do you want to mentor? Who do you want to go through that next level? It's going to be a beautiful thing.
As you talk about that, it conjures up, thoughts and conversations I've had over the years with different people. But I remember someone said, just recently, times have changed, and it's not the same. I go, okay, you may not remember this, but I was around when we didn't have a PDF transfer. It was called a fax mill machine. And it was
yes,
a thermal
I remember
copy.
faxes.
I wait 45 minutes and pray that it came through. I remember our first computer dial-up, and you hit the button and you wait, and then, you get the wheel of death, Microsoft back then, and all, but it's still the same today. The difference is this technology has taken everything and rapidly exceeded it, right? Whether it's planning, my dear wife, after 55 years, and Micah's mom, she spends half her day planning our next holiday. And it used to be with the travel agent. Now we use a travel agent. Once said, this is what I want, make sure I've got it right, and we pay her differently. So travel agents were paid by commissions. Now we pay them by project. Things have changed, but they remain the same. And with, YouTube and Google this and Google that, it's all fantastic. But sometimes we just need that human touch. Have you thought about, yep, that's right. I agree 100%. But have you thought about this piece of it? And Google may not bring that piece to it. It's be interesting to see what AI does to this whole thing.
Super fascinating.
About changes stuff. Yeah.
All right, Pop. So this podcast is all about action items for our listeners of things to go and to do. And I want to say, number one, regardless of where you're at, whether you're pre-retirement mode or retired, what does your day look like in retirement? What does your week look like? What does your month look like? What are those big bucket list items, and when are they going to get done? It's also really easy not to plan things and have life just fly right by.
I don't care. We'll figure it out tomorrow, until tomorrow comes. And then it's like, you drink a cup of coffee, you read the newspaper, do the crossword puzzle. What are you going to do today? I don't know. What do you want to do today? You think your mom and I have had that conversations a couple of times? Of course we have, right? But it's that structure. And that's, we can be loosey-goosey, but it's still the structure. And I like, in the military, we had people retired, ROAD, we call them road guards, retired on active duty. Well, for the next 2 or 3 years, that's kind of what we're going to be doing. You got your job to do, but you need to plan out the next 3, 4, 5 years. Mike and I know this. For the first 18 months, it's going to go like this. And you go to overspend, and someplace 12 or 13 months, we need to be trending down. And then that trending down is, I want to see the bucket list. I want to see what's next. My conversations with my clients, where you been? What's going on? How's your cash flow? And today is, how's your cash flow? Are we saving enough? Where you been? How's your health? Then we'll talk about cash flow. And then we plot things out. So when it comes time to take that holiday, to go do these things, you go, yeah, we can do that. And, I always ask my client, or what's the major expense coming up? I'm going to buy a new bicycle, a couple $100, $1,000. Okay. All right. I'm going to go a trip around the world. Okay. Now we've already budgeted for it, right? No, this is a win. We just thought about it last night. Okay. Now pull the spreadsheets out. Where are we going to find the money for it? Plot it out. Write out. This is what I'm going to do when I retire. This is my day. Here's how it's going to look. These are my holidays. These are the high priority things. These are I really want to do, but I'm not sure yet. And have conversations with the spouse. Make sure you're talking with the spouse. And if the kids are close by, like in our family, make sure there's a conversation. So everyone is on tune as we start to do these things.
Awesome. Pops, thank you very much for joining us.
My
You have
pleasure.
a lot of wisdom to share with our audience that I really appreciated. Take control of your retirement, making sure you guys, our listeners out there, planning things, taking care of things. You have some phenomenal opportunities and great benefits. And until we meet again, happy planning.
Happy planning, guys. Bye.